Stop. Don't write that comment. That's right. Don't put that comment in your code. Look, most of the time when people think about comments, they think about the ideal scenario where the comment perfectly complements the code and the future reader of the comment will be illuminated with wisdom. The reality is most comments look a little bit more like this. XXX race. Oh, great. What is the actual race condition? How long has this even been in the code? Now, these are especially bad comments, but it really isn't unusual for comments to be out of date or cryptic to a future reader. Have you ever had this experience? Who's the idiot that wrote this? Oh. If you haven't had that experience, you will. Just give it some time. And I promise, most of your comments aren't going to be very illuminating to your future self either. Instead of writing that comment, what should you do instead? Well, first, you should try to make the code clearer, because that desire to write a comment is often an indication that the code isn't as clear as it needs to be. So you might want to rename some variables, break things up into functions. Okay, so what does a good comment look like? Well, one place I can think of that is really great for comments is if you have a public interface or an interface to a library that's being used by other people. It's a good place to write some comments that explain what each of the functions do and maybe a brief overview of what this library or interface does. And the hope here is that you have a team of developers or at least a team of users that will complain when those comments get out of date, forcing you to write good comments and keep them up to date. Another case where you can have good comments is when you have to work around somebody else's bugs or idiosyncrasies. Here's an example from the AWS Cognito Angular example where they have to prime the authentication pump, so to speak, so that the first request is successfully authenticated. This is a good place for a comment, but it's also a good place for a unit test so that if anybody changes the behavior, the unit test breaks and people are at least forced to evaluate whether or not this workaround is still needed. Another example of a good comment is to document an algorithm that you're using that's well known or published somewhere else. So for example, if you have a class called treeBitmap, which I've written in the past, then you should have a little note that says, hey, this class implements the treeBitmap as presented in this paper. If you disagree with me about code comments, leave a comment on this video. If you agree but think I've missed cases where comments are a good idea, also leave a comment on this video. If you like this video, don't forget to click like and share with your friends. And make sure you subscribe to our channel by clicking on the logo on the screen so you don't miss out on future great videos.